I want to thank the Institute for Indian Justice for inviting me to address you today. I'm sorry that my schedule will not permit me to join you in person, but I look forward to a full report of the ideas and suggestions generated by this conference. Let me first commend you for convening this important Journey to Justice Summit and for your commitment to stop violence against Native women. President Obama rightly called the current levels of violence against Native women an assault on our national conscience in his speech to tribal leaders on November 5th. Those of you gathered in Oklahoma City know only too well that the statistics are grim. And while these statistics paint a deeply sobering picture, we fear that too often these crimes go unreported and unpunished, swept under the rug by intimidated victims or brushed aside by overtaxed law enforcement personnel or prosecutors. When I read the statistics, like you, I think of the terrible human toll for our families and our children, for our wives, mothers, sisters, and daughters. But you are there because you have stepped forward to offer your talents and energies to do something about this crisis. I want to assure you this is not only a top priority for this administration, this is an issue that is near and dear to my heart. I'm relatively new to this office, but I'm certainly not new to the issue of violence against women. I assure you that as we confront this issue together, I will bring to bear all of my experience as a former prosecutor and as the Attorney General of Idaho. During my tenure as a prosecutor, I worked to develop protocols for responding to domestic violence reports and for protecting children from abuse. As Idaho's Attorney General, I worked to get these protocols implemented, county by county. I saw firsthand the families that were torn apart and the lives that were shattered by violence. This issue is personal to me. I know that some of you face special jurisdictional challenges. As President Obama has said on many occasions, Washington does not have all of the answers. We want to hear your thoughts and recommendations for moving forward and for enhancing federal, tribal, and state coordination and cooperation. We cannot permit a two-tiered system of justice that lets victims or perpetrators slip through the cracks because the jurisdictional questions are too complex or the resources for Indian country crimes are spread too thin. And most certainly, in the year 2009, the color of a victim's skin should have no bearing on how seriously local responders or prosecutors take the crime. At the Department of Interior, we are taking a number of steps to address the larger crisis. We will need your input and your help for these efforts to succeed. We are developing multidisciplinary teams throughout Indian country to coordinate services, social services, victim services, mental health, law enforcement, and prosecution. We will not solve these issues working in isolation. This problem requires a coordinated effort, and we are putting those teams together. In coordination with the Department of Justice's Office of Violence Against Women and the Sacred Shield Northern Arapaho Tribe Against Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, we are developing a video training tool for law enforcement, social services, and tribal courts to assist those who work with victims of domestic violence. We are also developing a training tool to assist responders to deal with violent death in Indian country in a more culturally appropriate and sensitive way. We are training BIA social workers to recognize the signs of domestic violence, to conduct thorough interviews, and to collaborate with law enforcement where appropriate. We are launching a robust victim services program to develop relationships with tribes, coordinate federal and tribal enforcement efforts, and assist in response to violence in Indian country. We will continue to be active participants in the Violence Against Women in Indian Country Task Force. Many of you may be familiar with this Federal Advisory Committee and may contribute to its work. We are working with the Children's Bureau Interagency Task Force to focus on best practices and coordinated responses to violence in the home. The research demonstrates that where there is domestic violence between partners, there is a very good chance that the children will become the victims of violence as well. We want to get ahead of that trend. We know that there is no magic answer. The problem of violence against Native women has complex roots in drug abuse, alcohol abuse, unemployment, crumbling families, and hopelessness. Our combined efforts are required on multiple fronts. We will work to prevent these incidents in the first place, but we must be prepared to effectively support victims and to bring perpetrators to justice when they do occur. The President has demonstrated his commitment to public safety in Indian country by signing legislation to bring significant increases in law enforcement funding. We need to match these increased resources with results. If a program is not working, we want to change it. If a policy needs revising, we want to make it more effective. But this is not about policies and programs. We know that. This is about people. It's about the safety of our loved ones. We want more of our families to live in homes free of violence and fear. We want perpetrators to be brought to justice and the rights and well-beings of victims to be respected. For too many and for too long, homes that should have been a refuge have become crime scenes. This administration is committed to full partnership with tribes in responding to this crisis. I am determined to do everything I can, and so is Secretary Salazar, to turn this tide of violence. Let us work together with determination to end this bitter chapter and to turn the page for our communities. Let us together write a new story of hope.